Brandon Conboy, Rivers Polsgrove. Asha Wisdom is currently not present. We have Robert E. Shaw. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. Jiren
It's
Chris.
Soul.
Saw.
Soul. Yep.
Okay. Then we have Isaiah A. Ames and Alice Mayberry running. And it's so nice to see everybody's face.
Nice to see you too. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, and
Thanks for
much
being
better. I think we should introduce ourselves one after the other. Um, yeah, let's start from the butterfly to Brandon Conboy to Rivers Postgrove, Asha Wisdom, not currently here, Robert Hill Shaw, then Jaren Chris and Isaiah. So you can start in that order. Just introduce yourself so people can know where you're joining from and what you do.
Hello, I am author and book reviewer, Madam Crystal Butterfly. And I am the author of 4 fantasy books, including my books, Curse of the Frog Prince, Curse of the Frog Prince Part 2, my latest book, Realms the Hidden Fairy, and I have another book, Violet Evergreen and the Seeds of Rebellion. And I'm going to take a moment with my cover. Peter actually gets a chance to gloat here because I decided to change my book covers and I asked him who he uses. So he's responsible for me having such pretty covers. I'm actually waiting for more printed copies of my books right now.
Yeah.
So I like creating fantasy stories for people to dive into and have a lot of fun with. And I also do book reviews. Anybody interested in having their book reviewed for free, just message me. I will be more than happy to give you a free video book review.
Wow. That's amazing. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, that's really amazing. It's nice meeting you. Brandon.
Right, that's me, Brendan. Yeah, I'm Brendan, and I'm an author, a poet, and I live in the UK, England. I'm half Irish, so that's the way I like to be known, as an Irish person. What else do you want to know? I could tell you loads, but I'm saving all that for later.
That's so sweet.
15 books.
Yeah.
I've written 15 books. I help other people publish books now.
Wow.
I'm also an editor, and I'm just starting to do audiobooks for people. So, yeah, I make films as well. I do media stuff. That's where I've got a fancy background. And yeah, so that's me. And if you want to find me on the internet, just put my name in and Google will show you where I am.
Wow. That's amazing. That's pretty much amazing. Now we'll move to Rivers Postgrove.
Hi, I am R.I. Polsgrove, and you can call me River. I write horror, fantasy, romance. A lot of my books have vampires, werewolves, zombies in them, and I write from a place of trauma because I've been traumatized deeply, and I use my writing to work through that in a healthy, safe way. And I want my books to empower other people who've gone through similar things. Even though they are fiction, there are some parts that are taken from my past and my childhood and all that stuff. So, yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you.
That's so much amazing. And Robert.
Yes. Alrighty, so I'm Robert Soul, right under the name R.E. Soul, which is basically my name, just all fancified. I've got, at the time of that we're speaking now, 5 books currently out. Primarily right in the kind of like a mixed genre, I guess you could call it, mostly urban fantasy, and that it happens in the real world. But there's magic and mayhem and all kinds of interesting things. A lot of the stories have a comedic edge to them. A lot of horror elements, mystery. My main character, private, all kind of in a connected universe. And a lot like River was saying, they're fictional stories, but I do put a lot of elements of kind of process and trauma too, in a way, or past experiences through these like heavily fictionalized versions of events.
So the first book, for example, The Mango Lion. Can everyone hear me? Everybody's stuck.
Yeah.
No one is moving.
Okay.
Is everything
I can hear
okay?
you.
Okay.
We can hear you.
All right. The first book, for example, The Mango Lion, is a book about achieving dreams that speaks to every young adult who wants to achieve their dreams. I think it's my connection that is not stable. Who wants to achieve their dreams. And the main character of the book is the mango, because mangoes too want to become beautiful mango trees, but they have to go through periods of life where sometimes there's doubt because all human beings want to eat them and throw them in the garbage. And the second part, and we will have a translation company. We've been partners of English literature for, I think, about a year now, helping authors have the books in French, Spanish, Italian, and other languages.
So I think Isaiah will be the next to introduce himself.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Isaiah. I publish under the name Isaiah A. Hines. And I am a poet mainly, but I write a bit of everything. So I just published my first book about a year ago. It's a collection of poems. It's called Null. And it is out to choose work. Just moved here from New York City. And I grew up in Vermont, New England. And yeah, so I'm a poet and scholar, I guess. Research as part of my social issues, historical issues, cool aspect to it. And I'm also, so I love to perform my poetry as well. And because we'll be talking more about it later.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much,
Any
Isaiah.
fun fact about the author Rivers?
I play Sims. I play a lot of Sims. I'm obsessed.
Americana.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I played a lot of Americana stuff. I was gigging around, and
Okay, a fun fact about me. When I was in high school, I was named Vermonter of the Year, which was a really funny little kind of title. And just my home state is Vermont. That's where I grew up, and it's a really kind of like interesting place. And yeah, it's very formative. Like it's shaped who I am a lot. So that's a somewhat fun fact.
Wait, what does that mean? Like, does that mean like you're the model citizen of Vermont? What does a Vermonter look like?
Exactly. Exactly. Like that's like exactly the question I would hope. Because yeah, it's like it's an award that they've been doing for a couple of decades now. And I think it just speaks to like the kind of weirdness of Vermont in a lot of ways.
Wow.
But yeah.
Who gives out the award, actually? What's the body that gives out the
Yeah, who
award?
decides who's the best Vermonter?
Yeah. The main like it was organized at first by the Burlington Free Press, which is a newspaper like and the biggest one in the state. And it's very now it has other people involved in the process of nomination and everything. But yeah, it's an interesting little place, Vermont.
Well, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Robert.
Yeah, congratulations.
I don't know what's a really good fun fact for me. I guess maybe just that I'm also like a visual artist as well, to some extent. Like I do the artwork on some of my covers, and a lot of my books have interior illustrations. So like there's an example. So yeah, so I not only write, but I also try to illustrate my own books. I originally went to school for a few years with the ambition of being a comic book artist. So I guess that's a fun fact.
Congratulations for that.
Okay, fun facts about me. I am a big gaming nerd. I love video games, and right now I'm playing Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And when it comes to my writing, I sometimes, when I have a scene, my brain will make me listen to a certain piece of music over and over again until I get the scene written. Like in my book, Violet Evergreen and the Seeds of Rebellion, I was writing about a demon attack. And for some reason, my mind wanted to hear this particular song just for me to write the entire section.
I relate to that so much. Oh my gosh. I thought I was the only one.
You are not alone.
Thank you.
That's funny.
Yeah, music definitely helps me to write, and it's a big inspiration. I'll name chapters and things after songs. And I used to put quotes from song lyrics in the beginning of my chapters, and then I found out that that's like a legal like landmine, so I had to have those removed. But which broke my heart, because I really felt like those lyrics like helped to set the mood. But yeah, it's hard to get permission to do that. So it's like playing with fire. So I'm just like, I'm just not going to go there anymore.
Yeah. I listen to a lot of emo music to help me write, like, early 2000s emo. Like I'm actually wearing a My Chemical Romance shirt underneath this, and that's my genre. That really helps.
Okay. Oh, that's nice. Thanks a lot. On my side, a fun fact, French is actually my first language, and I've managed to write my first book in English. I remember when I was learning English the first time, I used to confuse kitchen for chicken. So when I go to the market, instead of asking them, I want a chicken for $5 or $2, I will tell them I want a kitchen rather for $2 or $5. So I think I've improved a little bit in my speaking and in my writing. That has helped me to write my first book in English. And I speak Spanish as well, a little bit of Spanish. That's one fun thing.
Oh wow. Yeah, then I love going out. It's boring when you stay all day sitting down with these books you're looking at and stressing yourself with a lot of reading. So yeah, I love going out. I love music. I love reading, I'd say. And yeah, I love meeting new people as well. So that should be a fun fact. I'm not sure if that's a fun fact even. I'm not sure if that's a fun fact even.
It's a fun fact to go back to the cello.
Yeah.
Start by introducing the first speaker. So once that is going on, we can catch up with the rest. And I love to start from Madam Crystal Butterfly. Okay, let me list it this way. The first speaker is Madam Crystal Butterfly, followed by Brandon Conboy, by Rivers Polsgrove. Asha Wisdom is currently not here. Then we have Robert E. Shaw and Jaren Chris, then Isaiah A. Ames, then Alice Mayberry hopefully joins later on. So Madam Crystal Butterfly is an author and successful part-time entrepreneur. She is half African American, half Ghanaian born and raised in the great state of Georgia. A passion for fantasy writing evolved from the joy of creating new and exciting words for people to enjoy. Inspired by twin cultural heritages, she has a passion for weaving cultures and histories together to create fascinating new narrative tapestries. And now I'd love to introduce Madam Crystal Butterfly for a speech about our book.
Okay. Hello again, everyone. It's so much fun to be surrounded by such amazing talent. And hello to you, lovely viewers out in internet land. Once again, I am author Madam Crystal Butterfly. I am the author of 4 books, Curse of the Frog Prince, Part 1 and 2. Part 3 will be coming out next year. My other book, Violet Evergreen and the Seeds of Rebellion, and my latest book, Realms the Hidden Fairy. Now, when I entered the world of the author, I started working on a book, It's Not Done Yet, Bloody Crown. And while I was working on that book, I was trying to learn the ins and the outs of authordom, because one fun fact I learned when you're researching how to do your author job, the first people who approach you are vanity publishers who demand large amounts of money to publish, and real publishers do not charge you a dime to publish. So after I was done weaving through the scammers, I found an authors group. I joined the group, and they told me, hey, while you're writing your really big book, write some smaller books. And I was thinking, no. This book is taking me a lot of time. It's taking all my time and all my energy. I am not going to be doing all this extra work of creating a smaller book. And then suddenly, like a brick to the head, I came up with Curse of the Frog Prince right then and there, because I realized, oh, great, I thought of it. Now I must write it. So once I started getting Curse of the Frog Prince really rolling and getting more of an audience for my book, I thought about how hard it was for me to even get started, because I was approached by scammers, combined with building an audience, as many of you know, is extremely difficult. So I thought to myself, why don't I help other authors have more of a voice and say, hey, I'm here. I have amazing work. Please just give me a chance. So I created my YouTube channel, Madam Crystal Butterfly, where I do free, spoiler-free, in-depth book reviews. I actually, today at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, have a book review premiering on my channel for Hush Money by an author named Jackie Abraham. And you can check that out later today if you are interested. But as I said, I do a ton of free video book reviews because, like me, I'm sorry. I know other authors have the uphill hurdle of trying to show their books to as many people and say, hey, I have something fun to read. So I like helping other authors with building something. And one thing last I would like to mention on my channel is I was thinking a lot of the video game YouTubers all get to have their conspiracies. And I paused for a minute. I'm thinking, I'm a writer. Other writers. There are tons of writers on this YouTube thing. We don't have any conspiracies. So I have started building a little bit of a conspiracy on my channel. If you check it out, you'll be able to follow the mystery that I'm building. I have shown parts of it off because I may have somehow, when I was reviewing a certain author named Peter Okonkwo's new book, I mentioned how the Writers Guild sent him a stick instead of a magic wand. That's the only hints I'm giving you right now. You can watch the channel and see more where I'm taking this conspiracy.
Yeah, that's very amazing. And I wanted to say that, if a speaker finished speaking and you have something to add, you can, add something, or maybe give, what's it called, a kind of a feedback afterward, just so it wouldn't be only me speaking after a speaker, finished talking. So that's amazing, Madam Butterfly.
Do you mean questions or?
Yeah, good. Another one. So you can ask questions if you would like to, and for the speakers to go ahead and answer. So just to make it interactive, yeah. Rivers wanted to say something.
Yes, Madam Butterfly, your writing process sounds a little bit like mine, especially how you're talking about how the one book just kind of hit you in the head, and then it's like, okay, now I have to write this. That sounds a lot like what I do, and that's why I have so many books out there, because, anyway, it sounds like you're very much a pantser. But I guess my question to you is, on the spectrum of from plotter to pantser, where do you fall on that spectrum?
I'm somewhere in in between, because at first I thought I was pure pantser, but then I noticed before I write something, I will write a partial outline just so I don't get lost in my own creativity. You know how it is, you get too many ideas at once. So I'm just somewhere in between.
Yeah, that makes sense. Same.
It's amazing. That's really amazing. I love that. Thank you so much, Madam Butterfly, and thank you also, Rivers. And now I'll be moving to the next speaker, which is Brendan Conboy. Conboy has once been featured on P English Literature in Time Parks too, so it's amazing to have him back on the show. So Brandon Conboy is a Christian author and poet who says that he is on a writing mission from God. Why does he say this? Simply because God gave him the skill of writing. So he writes whatever he feels. God tells him to write. Brandon has an incredibly inspirational testimony which he published in 2015. Since then, he has written 15 more books, including 3 unique novels. His highly acclaimed book of Psalms in rhyme is regarded by many as a must read. And now I'll be handing over to Brandon Conboy to pick it up from there. You're welcome, Brandon.
Thank you, Peter. That's straight off my Amazon author page, so very well read. When I left school, well, I got kicked out of school. I didn't behave very well at school, and I was not a very nice person back then. I grew up in a violent environment. My dad was an alcoholic, and so I grew up in violence, and I became a violent young man. And so, not surprisingly, I got kicked out of school. And not surprisingly, I did not like writing and especially hated poetry. And now I absolutely love poetry. Poetry is my big thing. But as Peter just said, I'm a Christian. So if people say, what genre do I write? I say there's an overarching, everything I write has a Christian message. But I've written 2 biographical books, the 2 books behind me. The Golden Thread was the first book that I wrote, and it tells my life story of how I became a Christian and how God changed me through that, and the difference that it made, the transformation. Within a few months of inviting Jesus into my life, I was hearing God speaking rhyming words in my head, and that hasn't stopped since 1986. So I hear God speak in my head, rhyming words. It's pretty cool. And so that's one of the ways that I write. Peter also mentioned this book, the Book of Psalms in rhyme. This is my bestseller, believe it or not. This is straight out of the Bible, but I took the whole Book of Psalms. Nobody else had done it when I wrote this, and I don't know if anybody is Christians here, but I felt that God led me to write this. 150 chapters, 2,461 verses, and it for me it was a very close moment of getting close to God writing this book, and yeah, it is my top seller. So this is my first book, The Golden Thread, and the story in it, it's how I became a Christian. Just said that, but through rhyming, I was a Christian rap artist for 25 years, or just over 25 years, and I was going around schools and rapping to thousands of young people in schools. So that's a little bit of that story. But I became a youth worker as well, and I set up a charity that helps to support young people. And because I was a young person that was struggling, I was struggling to the extent that I was self-harming. My mental health was suffering. It suffered so bad that at the age of 14, I was suicidal and planning to end my own life. But then at the age of 15, my dad stopped drinking. So life changed. That's all in the book. And also in the book is the fact that just because I became a Christian didn't stop the issues with my mental health. And so since being a Christian, I've been suicidal and planned my own suicide twice as well. So, you know, becoming a Christian doesn't fix your mental health necessarily. But this is an amazing story. It's been read all over the world. And I've heard people contact me from different countries and say, this story has changed my life. So that to me is, you know, when people say what makes a bestseller, I say a book that changes people's lives. That's what makes a bestseller. It doesn't necessarily mean to be a book that sells millions, but if a book can have an impact on people, then you know it's a bestseller for me. This is my latest book, and it is the continuation from. I better fill in a little bit about novels as well. So I've written 3 novels. One of them is an issue-based novel based around domestic violence. Bound to be, wasn't it, as I grew up in domestic violence. And then I've written 2 sci-fi fantasy novels, which I love writing. And one of my ARC readers made a comment. To start with, I thought it was a really horrible comment. She said, I wish I could unread this book, the second book in the series, because it's got quite a bit of horror and graphic stuff in it. And she said, oh, I wish I could unread it. But, you know, to me, that means it had an impact on her. And just because I'm a Christian, I'm not going to write it all flowery and fluffy. I'll tell it how it is, you know, and people die. I love killing people in my fantasy fiction novels, and all young people are always the heroes. So they're young adult fiction. This book, this is my life for the last 9-10 years, and it follows on from the Golden Thread. And in the last 7 years, I've nearly died 4 times. I've been on life support twice, and I've been to the tunnel of light, the approach road to heaven. And I can tell you that heaven is real because I've been almost at the gate of heaven, and God sent me back again. So there's a lot in here about overcoming the struggles. I tell different stories of my life about being living with a kidney problem and having to be transplanted, with having a heart problem as well. So there's a lot in here about how overcoming battles. And at the end of each chapter, there's a little bit of consider this sort of self-help support stuff. So, and this at the moment is, it was, the last time I looked a couple of days ago, it was number 2 on the Amazon Christian miracles chart. So straight in at number 2. So yeah, so good book, get it. And if you want to follow me, I'm also on YouTube. Got a YouTube channel. Just put my name in, Brendan Conboy, and you'll find it. Most of the stuff on my YouTube channel is poetry. And but if you and my poetic name is Half Man, Half Poet. So the YouTube channel is Half Man, Half Poet. Find me. Tell me if you like me. Tell me if you don't like me. You follow me on YouTube, I'll follow you back.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's quite a very deep, I would love to say I never knew that this is such a content your book contains. It's very deep. The inspiration, the experiences you've gone through to be able to put such words together, it's really amazing. It's really amazing. And I'm quite intrigued that you can do this. So
Yeah,
Congratulations.
in the I Am Value book, I talk about how butterflies have to. Interesting, we got Madame Butterfly here. I talk about how to become a butterfly, the caterpillar has to break out of the cocoon, and and go through that battle, that struggle, and through going through the battle and the struggle, then a beautiful butterfly is created. And I see the battles and the struggles where I've almost died have made me a stronger and much better and more rounded person. So, yeah.
I don't know why. I seem to connect so much with that because I'm an emotional writer. I love things that'll make you think. I said, I think that's why I'm much more interested in things that are quite deep. Yeah, so thank you so much, Brandon. That's quite amazing, quite intriguing. And now the next author is River Polsgrove, which I'm shortly gonna be reciting, reading a bio, very short. So R.I. Polsgrove is an indie author who writes vampire romance. They use their writing as a way to heal from their own trauma and to empower other trauma victims and survivors. And now hand over to R.I. Polsgrove to pick it up from there. You're welcome, Rivers.
So my name's R.I. Polsgrove. My initials are very fitting, R.I.P., like rest in peace. So I have two series out, and I have a few other standalone works. My main series is called Into the Darkness, and the spin-off is the main series is the Dead Soul series. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I butchered that so badly. My main series is Death to the Soul. I can talk, I swear. Dead Soul series, and then this is the Into the Darkness series. The Into the Darkness series, I'm sorry it's kind of blurry, but the reason my background is blurry is because my room is an absolute disaster. And I was like, and right before we were getting on, I was having my husband help me out, and I was like, okay, we need to clean the background right now. We need to get all the stuff off the bed. So then he just goes, pushes a button, blurs the background, is like, look at how good I am at cleaning. And it's like, okay, that works super great. So I apologize for the blur. Yeah, so this is Quinn's backstory. This is the first book in Into the Darkness, and this is Death to the Soul, which is the first book in the Dead Soul series. And right now, the Dead Soul series has two main books and then one kind of novella called Blood and Brains, and it kind of goes alongside with the second book, which is A New Night. So yeah, let me give a better explanation of my books. So the best way I can describe my books, and the best way I've heard my books being described to me, is it's like the Marvel universe, where you have all these different, seemingly unrelated stories come together in one narrative. So I have backstories for Max and for Cora, and they're relatively separate. But if you keep reading in the series, you will see overlapping characters. You will see how these two come together, and then these two come together very, very, very nicely in Quinn's backstory. So in Quinn's backstory, you get to see Max, all the characters in Cora, and all in this book. So yes, that's the best way I can kind of give the gist of like how my books are structured. And yeah, as I've kind of mentioned, I am a trauma survivor. Specific type of trauma I'm talking about is human trafficking, honestly. I was born in Moscow, Russia. It's like I'm starting a therapy session. It all started when I was born in Moscow, Russia. And yes, I do make light of my trauma because it's a coping mechanism. So anyways, I started out in Moscow, Russia, and then I was adopted by these people, Melody and Frank. They brought me to America, and they were pretty wealthy. So it looked a little bit like an Orphan Annie story from the outside, but on the inside, it was I was adopted to be trafficked. So my uncle worked in Hollywood as a lighting technician. He worked on movies like The Blues Brothers and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And I remember I would have like these sleepovers at his house, and we'd go into the basement and there would be some really messed up videos made and pictures taken. And obviously I've had a hard time dealing with all this. And I remember one time I was in a very, very dark place. Like I was getting ready to go. I was getting ready to take my life. And I just kind of thought to myself, hold up. If I'm going down, I want to take the people who hurt me with me. Not necessarily in a, I want to hurt them back way, but like I want to protect further victims. And I had tried to write autobiographies before, but it was just way too painful, way too close to home. And I remembered I had an erotica filed away in my drawer. And yes, Death to the Soul started out as an erotica. And I remember I didn't like it because all the characters were really mean to each other. There was no depth, none of that. So I took it out and I revised it. And it turned into something really, really, really cool. And I give my characters a lot of detail, and like I said before, how I weave in some things that have actually happened to me. And it's been very healing because it gave me kind of like space away from the traumatic event so that I could write about it and process it safely. And yeah, so it's a very healthy way to cope. And I've also noticed that when people read my books, some people get very, very emotional. And the funny thing is that the people who I've gotten the biggest emotional reactions from are older men. Vampire romance. Older men are crying because of vampire romance. It is absolutely incredible. And the reasons that because I've asked them, like, why did this give you such an emotional reaction? And the answer I get a lot of the times is because I have had my main male leads go through trauma, but that doesn't take away from like their manliness, if that makes any sense. You know, they don't turn into a sniveling pile of sadness for the entire book, or they're not some whiny little soy boy who's just like, I'm so sad all the time. No, my character Quinn is very strong, and he's been traumatized. My character Quinn is a good leader, a strong leader, and he's been hurt deeply, and he has emotional needs too, which I see a lot of times in books where it's like, okay, guys are manly men and their only needs is sex. Manly sex and beer, that's all I want. No, Quinn has bloodlust. He has, regular male urges, but he also has emotional needs where he needs someone to hold him. He needs to feel loved. He needs to feel cared for. And he's still a very strong leader. He's still a badass. And I think that's really hit a lot of like my older male readers. And it's always a very interesting, it's an interesting thing to see. And obviously it has really spoken to a lot of trauma victims, men, women, non-binary people. And it's always such a humbling experience. And it makes me very sad because like, if you understand what I went through, that means you understand what I went through, and it's always very heartbreaking. I'd like to end with reading something I wrote in the front of Quinn's backstory. So I wrote this when I was very, very, very emotional. I was in an extraordinarily, extraordinarily dark place, and I just had these words that started coming to me. And I didn't plan to put this in the book, but this was a little note to my readers, and I'd like to read this to you. To anyone who can relate to Quinn and or Edmund, I am so deeply sorry for the pain you have endured. Whatever happened wasn't your fault, and you have no reason to feel ashamed. If you understand these characters, if you understand me, fight like hell. This world needs you. I know that it's starting to sound like a cliche, but it's the truth. So many of us lose our lives to suicide and addiction, then we can't tell our stories. Stay alive to tell your story. Please, I need to know I'm not alone in this. Please stay, and maybe once we make our voices heard and get stronger, we can name and shame those who hurt us so they can never hurt anyone again. It's going to take an army to change things and make it so these creeps can't get away with what they do so easily. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for listening to me.
Wow, that's quite impressive, Rivers. That's very amazing.
Thank you.
That's very impressive. I love the fact that you mentioned all of these things, and you're very fun. Yeah, you're a fun speaker. You had an Uma alongside. It's kind of interesting. I don't know if anyone has any question for Rivers.
It's not a question, but I think your books and your style of writing will change people's lives,
Thank you.
make a massive impact.
Thank you.
Especially when some themes has to do with trauma, even. So I've got a lot of people being in that shoe.
Yeah.
If I could just add, I don't know you. I don't know your story, but it echoes. I mean, I mean, yeah. My story is one of a different type of survival. I suffered a traumatic accident years ago, but I'm hearing you, and there's so many people that during the stutter is part of one of the consequences of my accident. But
I get a stutter too when I get really emotional too, so I understand. You're good.
But I'm sorry, but it's just, in a word, it's touching. And again, as you stated, not to sound cliche, but it is hard for. I'm a man, originally from Southeast Georgia. You know, where men grow up men, and you know, but it's hard. It's hard. And I'm not even reading the novel, the book, but just hearing your story. And it's hard. It's very, very difficult for anybody not to feel something. And you know, if you can spend 3 minutes with a person and them hear you, not just listen, but hear you, and they can't feel something, they gotta be a corpse. I mean, it's you know, I'm sorry, but I simply want to say thank you. It's nice to virtually meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Earnestly, I would like to be able to tell your husband I said hello.
Okay.
But I would like to be able to keep in touch with you.
Of course. Yeah.
Because you obviously have not just the books that you've written, but you've got a quote unquote story to tell. Oh shoot.
Are you okay?
I just broke my finger.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I told Peter that I wanted to be here.
Sorry.
Hi, Peter. But anyway, I'm gonna shut up. But this is your time, Ms. River. But I'm touched. I'm touched.
Thank you. I'm glad we were able to connect, and I'd love to, connect with you further.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. This is your time, so I'm not gonna take up any more of it. But I will provide my contact information before this session concludes.
Awesome.
Yeah, that'll be great.
And I mean, I think Peter, don't you have like a chat with all of us?
I think it's better, Rivers, if you leave your own contact, because I'm not sure if BG can type and the chat.
Yeah.
So if you leave your own contact, you will be able to, search and follow. Would that be fine?
I'll do it in the chat here. Yeah.
Let me give you something. My email.
Okay.
Okay.
BG boy girl BG at author bghoward.com.
All right. Awesome. All right. I have that typed out. We're good.
Okay,
awesome. Thank you so much.
If you can reach out, because right now I'm struggling to keep from passing out. But it's a long story, but the pain is excruciating right now.
Oh, sorry.
You got this.
Sorry.
But, anyway.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Rivers, and thank you so much, BJ Howard. And please take good care of your hand, you know.
Yeah.
It's very important.
I'm trying to get through this. I'm trying to get through this.
Right. So I'll be moving to the next speaker, and that's Robert E. Shaw. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Robert. Yeah. So Robert E. Shaw is the alleged author of entirely too many stories in which members of an ancient global conspiracy are actually the good guys, and the space alien are just here to harmlessly observe us. This is obviously all part of a massive disinformation propaganda campaign to make you feel all warm and fuzzy when our Illuminati, lizard people masters inevitably emerge from the unholy depth of the hollow earth to rule us more openly. All of the proceeds from any of his books, which you may purchase, are funneled into a swift bank account used to help fund various nefarious black hopes. And now I'll be handing over to Robert to pick it up from there. You're welcome once again, Robert.
Hello. So I'm Robert E. Soul. The E stands for Enrico. Right under the name R. E. Soul. That's my goofy new author bio that I've been toying with. As it states, my books tend to be about conspiracies, but not in the typical way, because conspiracy theories have actually done a great deal of harm in the real world in the past few years. So I try to have as much fun with it as I possibly can, not really basing anything on any actual so-called real ones. They're all made-up ones. Well, all of them are probably made up, but you know what I mean. Completely my invention, and just trying to have fun with the idea. So the first book I did is this one here, The Shadow of Death. Self-published it through KDP. It's the beginning of my series, which is called The Dead End World. Main character here is this private eye named Matt Spike. He gets involved in a missing persons case, and it leads him into this world of secret societies. There's wizards, there's witches, there's highwaymen, which are like super thieves, there's super assassins, there's pirates. So there's knights. So there's just any kind of cool group from history that doesn't seem to be around. The premise is kind of like, well, they're still around, but they've just gone underground. And so he ends up involved in this kind of a war between these secret societies, and it ends up dominating his life for the next 25 years. Because this is basically kind of like a 9-book series and covers a 25-year span from like 1995 to 2020. And I'm writing the last book in the series right now. And I also did the illustrations for these. They all have some illustrations in them. I'm going to try and go through them kind of quickly. They're all in a connected universe. The next one here is Tales from a Dead End World. And this is a collection of short stories set in the same universe. This is actually considered like book 1.5. I'm going to have 3 more of these coming out. They kind of fill in some of the gaps because there's usually a gap of several years between each of the novels, and they kind of tell you some of the things that happened in between, kind of introduce you to some of the characters that will be in like the next book, give you some more backstory on them. So this is the first one, Tales from a Dead End World. Volume 1. Volume 2 will be coming soon. This one here is the actual second book in the series and kind of my favorite. It's a chunky monkey. It's very, very big. Called Beyond the Veil of Death. The main characters end up journeying into the afterworld, going to heaven and hell, and even Asgard. They go to. It deals with a lot of different mythologies and things like that. Santa Claus is in the story as a character, so it's actually a Christmas story. I love holidays, as you can probably tell. So that gets worked in there. I love Halloween as well. The story starts on Halloween and ends on Christmas. So it covers that whole kind of holiday season. Fun story. It's, to me, it was like my craziest like flight of fancy and imagination. Because when these characters are in like this kind of like afterworld realm that they're astrally projecting into, they can pretty much do anything. They can reconfigure their astral bodies to look like whatever they want to look like. One of the characters, like Sailor Moon, so he tries to look like Tuxedo Mask. You know, they really can kind of do whatever they want to some extent. This is the one that's just most recently come out, which is the third book in the series. Again, did the illustrations for it. This is called Matt Spike and the Vampire's Curse. And so this one is more like kind of horror. Like as you can probably tell, I jump genres a lot from book to book. The kind of the format of the series allows you to do that. So some books are more, this one's more horror. The next one that's coming out is more sci-fi. So yeah, they're all over the place, because I just kind of love everything. And it's hard to just pick one thing to focus on. So yeah, this is a war involving vampires and werewolves. Again, my character, these darn missing persons cases land him into trouble. He goes looking for this missing kid and ends up finding vampires and werewolves and all kinds of crazy things. So this one just came out this past October. This one is actually based on a book I started writing way back when I was 15 years old. For some perspective, I'm going to be 50 in May. And I shelved it, never thought I'd come back to it, never knew how to end it. And then I thought, well, one day I was at work and I was just thinking about this book that I started to write years ago because I was really bored. And I was like, well, whatever happened to those guys? What happened to those characters? Like, how did that story actually end? And then I thought, well, I was like, well, Matt Spike saved them. And that's my detective character. And so I was like, oh, and it just felt right. So I ended up marrying these two stories that were originally like completely unrelated. And I'm very happy with the results. So that's a good one. And this one also came out this year. This one's very near and dear to my heart. I live in Virginia right now, right outside of DC in Fairfax, Virginia. But I'm originally from New Jersey. So this is called Jersey Devils. And the Jersey Devil is like a famous cryptid from New Jersey. Kind of like our Bigfoot, but more dragony, as you can tell. And I was always obsessed with the Jersey Devil as a kid. Used to go out looking for him in my backyard. And I always wanted to write a book about the Jersey Devil. So this is it. And this is kind of a spin-off of this main series, The Dead End World, that I've come up with. So this is a spin-off series. The characters will eventually meet up with these characters in another book that's coming out next year. But these are like paranormal investigators who go out into the woods looking for the Jersey Devil and find a lot more than they ever imagined that they would. And feel free to stop me or if I've gone over on my time because I'm not keeping track. I'm just winging it. So, but yeah, I really love this book. This is one of the ones I didn't do the cover for. One of my friends did. Love the cover though. So yeah, the next book in the series is coming out next year. It's called Night of the Mothman. And that's kind of the crossover between my detective character, Matt Spike, and Athena and the Jersey Shore Paranormal Society, which are the main characters in Jersey Devils. And as I'm wearing a Mothman shirt. So I just love cryptids, mysterious creatures, mythology, just all the things, horror. Just having fun playing with all those things, trying to fill my time, hopefully amuse other people.
Yeah.
And not go too crazy.
You're a writer. You're supposed to go crazy.
Yeah, on the page.
Oh my goodness.
I had a question.
Okay.
For Robert. Usually,
Yes.
when you write conspiracy theories, kind of those type of book, how do you? When I was a kid, I used to like those type of books. But how do you differentiate reality from a conspiracy theory book? Like,
The groups that are the groups that are in the stories are not really based on any conspiracy theories that people really believe in. When people bring them up in the books, like they laugh at them. Like they like when they first meet these guys in my first book, they're like, "Are you guys the Illuminati?" And they're like, "The Illuminati? That's ridiculous." You know, like they died out in the 1700s. So it's just groups that I have my whole own mythology for them. Kind of within the context of the storyline, it's like our world in my universe is like a post-apocalyptic world in that we had this one advanced civilization back in prehistoric times. And basically there was a war between warring factions of magic users, of sorcerers, and they destroyed it all. And afterwards, these groups arose that rebuilt society, but they keep a tight rein on who has control on magic and stuff, because they don't ever want to see this sort of thing happen again. So that's why our society is more technological, because these groups have actively suppressed magic, because they're like, well, we're the only ones who are able to responsibly use magic. But it's all, it's not based on anything in the real world. Sometimes I'll try to weave it into historical events and be like, well, like a good example of that is that at some point in this history, one of the secret societies was behind a lot of the witch burnings, because that was their way of, they were the witches, the biggest witches of all, but they were burning anybody who they thought might be like a rival. They were afraid of other people discovering the secrets of magic. So if they ever even suspected somebody, they'd hunt them down. So it was like the witches were the ones doing the witch burning, until they kind of chilled out. Another idea in this is that these secret societies have kind of just gotten bored with the idea of running the world. So they really don't anymore. They just kind of still exist, and they kind of are like criminal gangs almost in a way, because they extort money from governments to be like, we're not going to use our powers against you if you pay us your taxes, your tithe us. But they end up kind of being the good guys sometimes, because there's these weird situations that happen where they're the only ones who are powerful enough to do anything about it. So they're kind of like a weird morally gray group. Sort of the good guys, but I hint that there's like, they have a dark history at times, and things like that. So I don't know if that answers your question. I rambled a bit.
Thanks a lot for that. Thanks for those.
Sorry. I have a quick question, if that's okay.
Sure. Oh yeah.
So you say that your book series spans multiple genres.
Right.
So I kind of have the same thing, where like some of my books are a little more leaning towards romance, and some of my books are leaning more towards like medieval horror, and it's all in these same two series. How do you market yourself? I have a hard time marketing myself, and part of that is just because of the variety of like themes and tones in my books. So what do you do? Any suggestions?
Honestly, I need suggestions, because I still struggle with that. I am published through a publisher now, Curious Corvid, and they've published all my other books after the first one, and eventually we're going to reissue the first one through them too.
Okay.
So I kind of like, to some extent, leave that up to them. I kind of lean more towards like, what is this story more of?
Right.
Like I was saying, like this one here, it's mostly horror. So I kind of lean into the horror elements of it too, but there's wizards and stuff in it. So, you know, and in fact, that's kind of the explanation for the horror. You know, this one is mostly cryptids, but again, there's wizards and stuff in it. So, and there's actually the Men in Black are in it, which is one of the few kind of like real world conspiracy things that exist in my books. But I always get away with it by saying that the group in my book is called the ABC, which doesn't actually stand for anything. They just made up that name because they needed a name, and they couldn't. They're like, "We'll come up with a cool name later," and they never did, and it stuck. And they love it because nobody can guess what it really stands for because it doesn't stand for anything. But they always say, we're the ones who inspired the legend of the Men in Black. We are the real Men in Black. All this other stuff you hear is just BS. And we let it spread because we love this information, because you'll never figure out what's really going on if we just let your imaginations run wild. So yeah, I just kind of leave it up to my publisher. I might make a few suggestions, but it's a challenge. Like, I don't even know how to describe like what I write, because like I said, like just about every darn book has wizards in it, even though I'm not even someone who considers myself like a huge fantasy fan. Like, I love fantasy, but it's kind of like I introduced this element into the story early on in the first book, and it's kind of like it's there. It's not going to go away, because it's a big part of that world and the whole backstory of that world. So it's like, and when you're writing a story, you're like, well, if there was a wizard around, he could solve this problem. And they do know wizards. So it would be weird if they didn't call in a wizard. And then, you know, so yeah, magic ends up in there a lot. So yeah, I just like to say, like, there's a little bit of everything in my books for everybody. That's kind of how I like marketed this one. It was like, there's something in here for everybody. Because there's like one that's just a pure detective story, which is kind of like the original story for my detective character. And there's no magic in that at all, or weird. Well, it does get a little weird, but you know. And then there's pure fantasy stories in here. There's a horror story, which is the one that first introduces the characters in this book. So yeah, that one's got like, which is easier to do, I guess, with a short story collection. Is you can do a little bit of every genre. But yeah, if somebody has a good idea about how to, when you love a mixture of everything, if someone has a great idea about how to market yourself, I'm all ears too.
As am I.
Yes.
Well, one good thing that you guys could actually do that I learned the hard way to start doing is when there are events like Dragon Con and other events that cater to your specific genre of book, it's good to print up a large amount of flyers and pass them out to people, let them know that you have a website and attract them to it. I did that at Dragon Con this year, and I got a ton more people than I was ever getting before. It's a cheap and fairly effective way to get more people aware of your work. And if you go on websites, I think like Eventbrite, because I did that, and I've been going to several events, just go pass out flyers. Flyers are a cheaper way to advertise yourself. It's an old way, but it's still a good way. If you do that, say hi to people and pass out flyers at events, you'll get more traffic coming your way.
I have a question.
It's a great idea.
I have a question. So when you say pass out flyers at events, like, do you mean like get a table? Because I do a lot of work with Lunatics Presents, by the way. Shout out to Lunatics Presents. Hi, you should check them out. They're absolutely amazing. And they're like they're a smaller group that runs conventions. And one of the reasons why I really, really like them is because the people in charge, they do it for the love of like the cosplay community and the community and like the horror community and steampunk community. But like when I go there, I get a table. So for like these bigger conventions, are you saying that like you get a table? Because a lot of those conventions, they are way out of my price range. They are way out of most people I know's price range. So do you have to get a table, or can you just show up and start handing out flyers? Like,
I basically did this. I went to one of the hotels where Dragon Con was being hosted. As people came in, I just handed out random. You don't have to get a table, Because the first
Okay.
time I did not get a table. My brother got me a table for Anime Con next year, but that's only because I'm going to have physical books to sell next year at a convention. But you do not need to worry about getting a table. Just walk up to random people and give them a sheet of paper. A lot of them are willing to look at it and take interest. All you need is some really nice art on it and the name of your stuff and just a way to direct people to it. And if you have a QR code, that would help as well.
Yeah, that is a great idea. I've actually done some conventions where I did have a table, but I'm gonna steal your idea at some point when I get back to that because I can get my kids to pass out the flyers and stuff while I'm at the table. So that's
a good
great idea.
Put kids to labor.
Yep, exactly. Child labor. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's not
Never
illegal.
got old.
No, not at all.
Yeah, but it's a cheaper way, and you only need to get a table. Really, I would suggest only get a table if you're ready to move physical product and pass out flyers because tables are so expensive. But
I was
yeah,
gonna say that. I was gonna say tables are so expensive.
What you could try to do too is see if you can share a table with another author. If there's any other authors in your area, I'm planning on doing that with another guy who's with my same publisher in this area, and and because I have it's a small indie publisher, but I was able to persuade them also to pay half the cost for my table in the past. So try to see if you have people who will go in on it with you. Would be my advice. Because they can get pretty darn expensive. It depends on the conventions. There's a lot of range though. The bigger one like Dragon Con would be extremely expensive. I've been to Dragon Con a couple of times, but before I had stuff to sell. But I hope to get back down there someday again.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get a table at Dragon Con.
Wow. That's quite amazing to know, really. Yeah, and I love the fact that you mentioned. I never knew that you can share a table, really. I'm just getting to know about that. So hopefully something one would love to try out.
Yeah, I mean, just ask somebody else if they'll split the cost with you, and then you can let them sell their products at your table too. So that's.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for your contribution and for the questions and the answers. Very impressive. Thank you so much. So we're moving to the next speaker, which is Isaiah A. Ames. I'll be reading the bio shortly before handing over to Isaiah to pick it up. So Isaiah A. Ames is a poet and scholar born in Vermont. Their debut collection, Non Landing, was selected as winner of the 2020 Slope Edition Book Prize and a finalist for the 2023 Austin Wright Legacy Award for Poetry. The writing can be found in Flat Journal, Obsidian, Literature and Art in the African Diaspora, and Root Work Journal. Isaiah lives in Troy, New York, and now I'll be inviting Isaiah to pick it up from there. You're welcome, Isaiah.
Hey, awesome. Thank you, Peter. So yeah, I'm super excited to be here with everyone. And so I'm gonna talk about my book, No Landing. So this is my first collection of poems, and it came out in November of last year of 2022. It's published by Slope Editions, which is a small indie press. And I guess I'm not sure where to start. I'm just kind of winging it. But I a little bit about myself. I know I talked briefly, but I have a background in, I guess, community organizing and social justice work. So I've been doing that since I was really, really young, like 14. And so I'm 24 now, so that's 10 years. And so that's a basis for my writing. So my writing is a way to, ideally it's a way to raise consciousness, and it's a way to get people thinking about things, and hopefully thinking about things differently and in new ways. And so my writing is always very conceptual. So No Landing is this kind of conceptual piece in that way. So I take the concept of nullity or like the idea of nullification and paired with the idea of landing, both two words that have very distinct but and different meanings, but I'm very interested in what happens when you bring these words together. So like nullity meaning being without property, or without properties, having no legal or binding force. When something is made null or nullified, it amounts to nothing. And so it's this kind of like erasing force, nullification. And then landing, you know, has a lot of connotations, like it's this motion, it is this action of coming to land, coming to light on a surface. And that to me gets at the performative aspect of my poetry, and the fact that it is meant to be performed and received and heard and experienced. So combining these two things that are seemingly kind of opposed in a sense, the nullification with the landing, to me makes possible a really interesting experience for a reader. And so I guess another way of conceptualizing my book is it has a distinctly musical quality. So I'm trying to capture the experience of a like live music in my poetry, which is a challenge, but I think it's something that makes my poetry a little unique in that sense. And in doing so, I conceptualize it as like a singing. It's a song that is meant to be sung, and it's a poet's song, you know, a poet's deep song, that is trying to be unearthed or trying to come to the surface. So it is this process of digging in and meeting myself and sharing that self with other people. So that's how I think about my poetry and my writing. And yeah, so in No Landing, I try to kind of sing or speak to the complexity of being Black and queer, and just like in this modern or postmodern world, and all the different things that come with that, the considerations you must take on constantly, the challenges of reading the world and being read by the world. These are tensions that I'm dealing with very intensely in my book. And it's been great to hear you other writers and authors speak about with such vulnerability about struggles with mental illness, mental health, because that's a big part of my writing as well. Writing No Landing was really an act of saving my life in a sense. And I was writing it and going through a really dark place in my life. I was kicked out of university, and I was just in a really low point in my life, and feeling really terrible. And No Landing gave me a reason to keep going and I wanted to share that story. And so I definitely connect to what a lot of you have said about, you know, writing from, sometimes I think many of us are traumatized, and many of us are, you know, realizing the power of writing in that way of helping us work through that, and understanding how we are shaped in violence, and violence is more and more a part of our everyday lives, and it's unfortunate, but it's something that can connect us. We can connect over that and find ways to heal. And so I hope that my writing can contribute to that as well. And then just briefly, like a big theme in No Landing is that of like liminality or kind of in-betweenness. And so I'm really interested in the power of the in-between space, being neither this nor that. Yeah, so No Landing is this kind of in-between space. And I think there's a lot of radical possibility in this in-between space, in the interval between two things. And so that's a theme I'm really working with. And that's also inspiring a lot of my current writing and my future projects, that idea of the in-between. So yeah, I think that sums it up. That's my work.
Wow. Wow, that's quite a very deep, yeah. And Rivers has a question. That's quite a very deep, theme to talk about. And as we were speaking, it got very. I remember that we're supposed to have a general open discussion about the impact of writers towards community development. Because I could figure out that most of the things you're talking about is a bit related to this. And anyway, I'm coming back to that. Hopefully, if we have the time before the second session, participants jump into us. Yeah, if we get a time, we can still do that. But then I love the fact that it's good to writing, being inspired by experiences, being inspired by what we've been through, and such kind of things really made for an interesting and deep discussion. So I would say that's such a great work you're doing. And to even convey it through poetry is an amazing thing to me because I'm a poet too. Yeah, so Rivers, I'll hand over to you. Have a question.
Yes. So would you ever think about like putting your poems to music? I guess the reason I'm asking is because you've honestly piqued my interest. I'm also wondering like what genre would you pick, and like, because I don't know. I really like a lot of the themes you've been talking about.
Yes. Yeah, I love that question. Music is totally, I want that to be part of the experience of my poetry. So what I did was when I published the book, I put out a playlist with it. And so it's a playlist. There are 60 poems in my collection, and the playlist has 60 songs. And it's all different genres. And I think it kind of relates to what some of you all have been talking about crossing genres and working between different kind of areas, because the music I draw from in my book is all different kinds of genres, all different traditions. A lot of Black music, of course. I'm very connected to my Black identity, and that is a big part of my writing and what I do. But yes, music, love it. And another part, to briefly, based on your comment, River. So the final section of No Landing is like just all this notes. So I have liner notes in the end, which is in it a lot of it is music. A lot of it is like is a suggestion, like you might be interested in reading this poem while listening to this song, because I was listening to the song while writing it, or this song speaks to something in the poem. And so it's part of this interpretive process. The music can help you.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love that so much. Like, okay, so really quick rant here. So I have some characters that, are musically gifted, and they use music to process their emotions and trauma. And so when I'm writing these characters, I kind of have to get into their headspace and kind of process their trauma with them. And it's really cool because I have a voice actor named Rick Murphy. He's gonna be working with some really, really, really cool people to kind of bring this specific band and some of these songs that my characters are doing to life. And I'm just like, wow. So I just really like the way that you are kind of bridging this gap between like writing and music together, because like not a lot of people do that. And I just think it's so beautiful and so cool to see these two things being connected, because they are both so deeply emotional. And it's so important, I think, that we that we can kind of collaborate between like media genres, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that's quite amazing. That's really amazing. I love the fact that we can even have this alongside the conference, which is very intriguing to me. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for talking about your books, and thanks for the questions in the answer section as well. So yeah, we're supposed to be ending in 10 or 5 minutes time. I don't know. As we keep going, some people might join, because those are the people that is joining for the second time, for the second session of the conference. Yeah, but then while waiting for those people to join, or once they join, you may decide to leave or stay in the conference, or but then, yeah, to move on, I'll be introducing you to Jaren Chris. Jaren has an amazing company which it does translation, and it's awesome to be having him to talk about, his company and yeah, on the show. So, Jaren, you're welcome. Could you hand over from there?
Thank you very much. Congratulations to everyone for the books, the amazing ideas. Writing books is not an easy task. And some of us have written 15, 20. Congratulations to everyone. And I'll make sure to get a copy of the books we've written. I'm an author myself. My first book that I mentioned is The Mango Lion. I think all of us can read the book. I've had the privilege of having a review from the Guinness, the youngest publisher, Guinness Book of Record, World Youngest Publisher, who had the privilege of reviewing my book. And this is what he said about my book.
Wow.
I never thought about mangoes this way. There's so much wisdom in the book, and I'm amazed by the concept of change. Dr. Sanjay Punya. Basically, the book is about achieving dreams, and I'm sure most of us have had the time to speak about what we wanted to do and how we've gone about it. And that's something I'm really proud of, and something I've kind of admired in all of us. We've had things we wanted to do, and we've actually done them. Most of the people you meet, there are a lot of people who have dreams or ideas about writing books, but they never achieve it. So in the book, the mango wants to become a beautiful mango tree, but based on his experience with the humans, most of the time when the humans come close to the big trees, come in contact with the trees, they only pluck the mangoes, eat them, wash them, and throw them away. But deep inside him, he wanted to become a beautiful mango tree. So that night when he's part of the mangoes that are plucked out of the tree, washed, sent to the village with the humans, his idea, his desire is still to become a beautiful mango tree. The only thing that prevents him from becoming a beautiful mango tree is that he's afraid of being buried, because he doesn't trust, he doesn't know what will happen if he gets buried, because it's a 50-50%, it's a 50-50 chance of either he dies or he grows up. So the book answers the question, is the mango ready to become a beautiful mango tree by paying the price of becoming a beautiful mango tree? Or is he just going to give up on his dreams and become like other people who have accepted the status quo and have not done what they plan to do or have not achieved their dreams? It's a wonderful book. There are 3 ideas basically in the book. One is the dream is only worth living for if it's worth dying for. The other one is it's important to go slow in life, because when you go slow in life, it helps you notice the people you have to serve. It helps you know your purpose and serve the people actually you want to serve. And that's the 2. And the third one, I'll be glad to let everybody go and check what the third basic idea about the book is. And it's a wonderful book, a book about achieving your dreams by going slow in life, serving others, and being ready to die for your dreams, based on the real life story of a mango. That's about the book.
That's amazing.
2 questions, and
that's amazing. And yeah, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to mention that we have another Ghanaian on the show. Yeah, Madam Christy. Madam Christy Butterfly, which is also a Ghanaian like you. So, in case you don't know. And I'm sorry to review that, Madam Butterfly.
What do you start to reveal that?
That's nice. Well, Akaba.
I have a thing I want to say.
Aquaba. I'm sorry, I'm
Oh.
repeating a word because I'm not thinking straight. But yeah, so I'm not very good at tree yet. I'm trying to learn.
Oh.
That's
My
fair
family
enough.
dumped me in Ghana for a month. I'll speak it like no tomorrow.
Oh.
Congratulations.
Hi, I just want to say something real quick. I really, 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 really liked the way you are using the metaphor of the mangrove tree to kind of relate to people chasing after their dreams and having to make decisions. And I don't know, I just really like the way you talked about it, and I found it very personally inspiring. So
Yeah, it has actually a personal story because growing up, we okay, I will kind of contextualize the book. A lot of us in Africa feel as if we can't do stuff. When in reality, we actually can, right? What prevents us most of the time is fear and past experience. That's why in the book, the mango's past experience is most of the time when the human beings go to the trees, they just pluck the mangoes and eat them. Because I've had friends who actually can do stuff, but the fear of past experience. My uncle, for example, I remember when I'm a mechanical engineer, by example, and if anybody has a mechanical engineering job, I'm ready to do it. So when I was in school, I gave him an idea that I wanted to start a business, and I wanted to start probably a taxi business. Based on his past experience, he told me I shouldn't try it. It's going to fail. And I gave him another idea. We have a lot of cows in some villages, and if you could actually ride the cows to get some cash, that one tree told me it's not something that's going to work. It's going to fail. So I kind of realized that a lot of people have ideas, but we are limited on past experience. It's good to use past experience in your decisions, but sometimes they are very limited, right? They narrow your view and they put fear in you that you cannot do stuff, you cannot achieve this, or you cannot try certain things, you cannot take risks. So it's that contrast or that belief that you can actually do stuff, right? Though everybody has failed in the past, you can actually be the difference. You can make a difference. You can do something about it. You can be the first person to be either the beginning of something new, something good, or probably just the limit of all the bad things that have happened. And I think I testify to River's story of wanting to be probably the change in a particular story so that other people that come after have a different story, not just the same repeating story. That's the beautiful part with the book. And let's see what the mango can do or if it's going to give up.
Oh, that's impressive.
Can I just add a comment?
Feel free. I will just attach the book on my. I'm listening. It's Isaiah, right? Isaiah Hines.
Yes. Yes, no. So I mean I'm really interested in your work. I'm excited to read it. But I just wanted to say I love how how you put the mango as the protagonist in this story. And it's impulse that goes counter to like kind of the tradition in I mean, I guess mostly in America and I guess the Western world, like a human has to be the protagonist, a person. And so you push back against that and you say the mango is the main character. And I love that a lot because people don't always consider things like trees or fruits as having spirit and, something that is alive.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that. And the reason why I made that selection, it's always good to be inclusive without mentioning anybody's name, right? So I had to kind of, if you write a book about male, female, we think they were not mentioned. If you write about, and other people would want to have a specific book. So why not just go with what everybody understand? A child can read, an adult can read. a grown-up will understand. And that's kind of the choice of. And by the way, mangoes are my favorite fruit, right?
Oh.
So everything is personal about. Mango is my favorite fruit and my favorite drink.
Oh.
Today, I think mango smoothie with banana. I love mangoes a lot. Mangoes are considered to be kind of a sacred fruit. In Buddhism, it's considered a sacred fruit because that's believed to be. So it's believed that Buddha rested under mango tree, right? So it's a sacred tree. In India, I think, and Pakistan, it's the national fruit. So mango is the national fruit for 3 countries, I think, in the world. It's a special fruit, and it has a lot of vitamins. So after the Zoom meeting, we should go and take some mangoes and appreciate it.
Now you make me want to drink some mango juice.
Yeah.
In actuality,
as well for review, I would love reviews a lot. It has sold a lot in Ghana, and I want to see outside the impact it's going to make, like all of us wants to do.
I have 2 things. In actuality, you just reminded me that I have mangoes in my. I learned how to freeze them, so I have mangoes in my freezer. So as soon as this Zoom session is over, I'm going to go and thaw some mangoes and have mangoes. But the other point. I like the comparisons, and you mentioned about facing fears. The theme of the book, and I write a lot. I'm a novelist, but I write also poetry and philosophy and things like that. But one of my philosophies suggests that more often than not, we find that fears, once faced, become little more than life experiences. So when you experience these fears, and it's like the fear of the dark.
Yeah.
You're afraid of the dark, but when you turn the light on, the same thing is there. So you realize that this fear is misplaced because there's nothing there in the dark that's not there in the light. But it's just an analogy that I think is poignant. But it sounds like a really, really interesting read.
Very interesting. Thanks a lot for the idea and the other.
Yeah. That's amazing, really. That's so amazing. I've been enjoying the conference so far. And yeah, it's pretty interesting that we've gotten to this point. Yeah, we should have ended, like we should have, the ending point is 1:30. That's Eastern time. Yeah, but then it's been stretched currently. So we have other people who will be joining by 7 p.m. So I'm just trying to say that you can leave whenever you feel like leaving. Because we have people who will be joining alongside. Like Brandon Conboy already left because it's over. So you can leave if you want to leave. And if you feel like joining the next session, we'll be having new faces the next session. So you may want to join the next session too. But then while we are contemplating on leaving or not leaving, I'd love to invite BJ Orward to talk about. BJ Orward is supposed to be part of the authors for the second session. So yeah, it came a bit early. So BJ, I'd love to hand over to you for you to tell us about your book. And yeah.
Thank you. First of all, I thank you.
Peter, one question.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah. Peter.
Yeah.
The links you sent were 2 separate links, or
so I'm using this particular link all through.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the time, when does the second session start?
It starts the next 15 minutes.
15 minutes, all right. So I'll be back in a second.
Okay. Yeah, you can go ahead, BJ. Sorry.
I started to say thank you for this platform.
Yeah.
And I have to apologize because honestly, I'm struggling right now because I did not take this morning's dose of pain medication because I wanted my head to be clear for the session. So the pain is becoming more intense. It's yeah. Anyway, my novel. First, a little bit about me. I'm a former business owner, turned novelist because I was self-employed and excuse me, made the fateful mistake of saying I want to retire early one day. And the Lord said, okay. So he pushed the truck out in front of me. I had an accident, spent 7 months in a coma, broke every major bone in my body except my spine and my ribs, and underwent 8+ years of rehabilitative therapy. So in order to keep my head from exploding, I had to find something to do with my time. I went from working 150 hours a week to crickets. And so that's the abbreviated version. So to keep my head screwed on straight, this idea came to me one day and I just started typing. It turned to be more therapeutic than anything else. So I continued. At the end of 2.5 years, I had something, but I didn't know what to call it. So I filed it away on the computer. Fast forward another 9 years, and my now wife and I were in Massachusetts on a moment's notice. We expected to be there for 2 weeks. We ended up there for 2 months. And she came to me and she said, you told me that you wrote a book. And I said, okay. So I went back, I found it and gave it, copied it to a flash drive and gave it to her. She comes back a few days later and she goes, you got to do something with this. So fast forward another 6 months and there came the production of my original work, Family Ties Thicker Than Blood. Then it was not until after I launched the book in 2020 that I realized I didn't know what I was doing. So I went back and researched how to write a novel. And that's my alarm, my medication. I went back to research how to write a novel. And so last year, I came back with this one, which is the revised edition, Family Ties Thicker Than Blood. We just got back from Las Vegas. That novel was awarded Best Fiction 2023 by a group called the Distinguished Authors Guild. So now I am officially an award-winning novelist, for whatever that means. Thank you. So I'm working on the follow-up, which is Family Ties 2, Blood Covenant. This one was supposed to launch on the 15th of this month, but the layout and design team, they have problems getting me the final print files. So I've decided to wait until after the hoopla of the Christmas holidays and everything. That one will launch in prospectively in February the 9th. So we can look for that one. But Peter, I'm struggling. I'm sorry. I'm struggling.
No problem. You can understand.
The Family Ties 2 will launch in as I said in February the 9th. That's the prospective date. But the original, the revised edition, it's a story about a young man who moves from Georgia to New York He's an aspiring model, like entertainer, and he inadvertently saves the life of a crime boss by the name of Oswald Jenkins. And the novel talks about him. Basically, his name is Willie, and Willie is running operations for Oz. And when Willie comes into the picture, he kind of displaces the former second in command, and that sets into motion a chain of actions that leads to Willie ducking and dodging, quintessential threats. And Anthony teams up with another former protege by the name of Jerome. So Jerome and Anthony hatch a plan to take over Oz's territory, essentially. And it's a very, very interesting coming of age story that talks about, a young man going through the trials of life and coming into his own. Things are a little more complicated when Willie, while operating things for Oz, the crime boss, Willie inadvertently becomes romantically involved with NYPD officer Ernestina Lady. So he can't disclose his real occupation to the police officer whom he's dating, but he also can't let Oz, the crime boss, know about his true aspirations because he wants to be an entertainer, an actor / model. So he can't tell Oz about his real life pursuits, but at the same time he can't tell the officer, his girlfriend, about his true art of living. So it's a really interesting, like I said, coming of age story. A lot of twists and turns, really interesting backstories. But I don't want to give away I don't want to give away the novel, but it's very, very interesting, and involves a lot of as I said, the backstory is really interesting. Willie is a young man who's had, like most people in life, you have something that you have to overcome. I mean, on this panel alone, including our gracious host, I'm sure that there are things in each of our lives that we can recount, and that we've had to obstacles with which we've had to contend, and things that you've overcome to get to where you are. This is a journey that has not ended for any of us, and we're just doing our best to move forward as best we can. It's an interesting
Sorry.
it's an interesting fact that as long as you're living, again, when I call them my twisted hillbilly philosophies because I'm from South Georgia, but one of my twisted hillbilly philosophies suggests that no matter what happens, no matter what you do, no matter what I do, things are going to turn out exactly the way the Lord intends for them to. So we do our best to live life in forward motion. That's the best that we can do. So on the note of the novels, you can find out everything B.G. Howard at my website, authorbghoward.com. You find there information about the novels, the pending novels, any scheduled appearances I have. Like I said, all things B.G. Howard, my website. Again, www.authorbghoward.com. There are also a couple of blog pages. Like I said, I write poetry, I write philosophy, I write obviously novels, short stories. So you can find everything B.G. Howard at authorbghoward.com. And not about the pain. But I thank you, Peter, again for allowing me a presence on your platform. Thank you for all the other authors and the interesting stories behind every published work that's on this panel. But again, the revised edition, award-winning novelist, and also the follow-up, Family Ties 2 Blood Covenant, will be prospectively hoping to launch it February the 9th. So you can look for that as well.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really amazing. And sorry about the pain, sorry about the pain. And I love the fact that you started by telling us a bit about your life, how you get started with writing, the accident and everything. It's very pulling and very emotional. And yeah.
Well, like I said, most everyone here has had, some obstacle that, to overcome. My stutter, I have a lot of challenges. And matter of fact, the doctors have told me that I will be in a perpetual state of rehabilitation for the rest of my life. But I refuse to allow, I refuse to, number one, lean on my limitations as an excuse. Because like I said, everybody has challenges. And, I've ruled out the word problems. I have obstacles, I have challenges, but I don't have problems.
Wow, that's very inspiring. That's quite motivating. That's one of the things that I love about this kind of gathering. I love it when you get to learn, hear people's stories, and you feel so inspired to do more for yourself. And like, if this person can do this, despite all of these challenges and obstacles and problems and heartache, then who am I not to do something? So you really inspired me, BG Howard, I'll say. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's really amazing. And yeah, just for the sake of people who are joining, we'll be starting the second. You actually joined this session. This is the end of the first session. So the second session of the conference is starting in 5 minutes. So we're having new people joining in. And just in case, to give you that, if you have a speaker who says something and you have a question to ask, you can go ahead by asking them a question and they'll provide answer to you. So I can see that a few people catch up while BJ Howard was speaking. So I don't know if anyone asked question for BJ
I just want to say this really quick. I want to say hello to BG Howard. It's nice to talk to you outside of LinkedIn, and I am very, very excited about reviewing Family Ties. It is one of the books I have on my list to review, and it's one of the really interesting ones, and I have been itching to read it. So just want to say hello to you again, and I'm really excited about your book.
Well, hi, Madam Butterfly, and I honestly, excuse me, honestly, I follow you on LinkedIn, and I like the reviews that you submit for all the other novels. I mean, I'm not a selfish person. I like what you do, and the reason that you do it. You explained a little earlier, and I think that is just so admirable because you're clearing your path. You're mapping your path, but at the same time, you are holding the hands of developing authors, and not just formulating this thing for yourself, but you're for lack of a better term, you're bringing other people along, and that's so admirable.
Thank you. And if I get to talk about great authors like you, it's worth it.
Oh, I'm touched. Flattery will get you everywhere.
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone else has any question for BJ Howard, but then as the interview was going, as the conference was going anyway, I cite Penny Blood, Toriba coming in. You're welcome. You're so welcome, Stephen Hart. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome, Annie Moose.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome to Asha Wisdom.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, then I think we have some other people will be joining alongside as the conference proceeds. We're having Kiro, the author, joining too, and Jaren Chris will be joining. Then Samuel Alexandra will join much later on. So you're all welcome to second session of English Literatures Writers Conference. We've started for like